What are we doing? Somebody said they liked my glasses. You too can have these for about $17.98, maybe a little bit pricier. They're at Walgreens. They're Foster Grants. Remember when that was a thing? Is she wearing Foster Grants? I don't know if that's still a thing. I doubt it. Anyway, yeah, these aren't my real. Well, I have real glasses too, but these are reading glasses. But at this point, because they're 1.50s, it looks the same. Well, I have contacts in. A lot going on. What are we drinking? Yeah, Buoy. Yeah, boy. This is from the Logboat Brewing Company. It's an Indian Pale Lager. And where is it from? Columbia, Missouri. What's in Columbia, Missouri? University of Missouri. The Tigers. Le Tigres. It's also where my brother Patrick lives. And he is the one who told me about this beer. And I'm drinking it out of a glass that I will admit I stole. Me and my friend Krista. Lewis wouldn't steal one, but we both did, out of a little place in Scotland. And the only reason we stole it, this is why I'm going to go to purgatory. Somebody's going to go, why are you here? I'm going to go, stolen beer glasses. Fucking too many. Turns out St. Peter allows like 5. I always try to buy them, but there was no bartender. Everybody left. It was like they just left us in charge. So I thought, well, I guess that means I can have it. I tried. So did Krista. She just sent me a picture of her drinking something. It wasn't a beer. Probably champagne or something. She likes champagne. Her husband, Mark, too. Okay, we're going to be finished in less than 100 nights. It's night 92, Termites. We're going to finish this before a hundo. Pretty impressive considering how much jabberjawing I do going off the highway when I read stuff in this. So she's bringing her friend Tovar, who's dying of AIDS, to the ACM Awards, American Country Music Awards, right? Are they the ACMAs now? I don't know. I can't keep up. There's too many award shows. Tovar was with me just like I promised him he'd be. The staff had told me he wasn't well enough to attend the show, so Tovar and I had arranged a visit. He'd visit with me at the hotel suite, watching it all on the television there in the room. The staff told me Tovar nearly died several times during the winter, and that they honestly believed that anticipating the ACM Awards was what was keeping him going. I rented a suite at Universal City and sent a limo to the hospice to pick him up. Oh, so the awards were in L.A. Oh, right, because she packed up her bags and went to L.A. I forgot about that. Because now I think they do them in Nashville. I don't know. I've never been. I went to the Emmy. Oh, I went to the Emmys? No. Yeah. I went to the Academy Awards. Let me tell you what. The Academy Awards, boring as shit. Why did I get invited? Because 100 years ago, Chris Rock hosted the Academy Awards. And my friends wrote jokes. And then I went with a friend. And, no. I wouldn't go again. Boring. And if you go out to the bar, they lock you out. You can't go back in until there's another commercial break, which I didn't even mind. I'm like, lock me out the whole time. But then I thought, they have seat people that'll sit in your seat. Plus my seat was so shitty, you would have never seen that seat on television. It's just because they don't do anything. The Grammy Awards, I've never been, but they look great because people are performing. It's the Academy Awards. If Julie Andrews comes out, then you need to act out a scene for The Sound of Music. Something. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, do something from Seinfeld. That's why it's so boring. The music ones are so much better. Even the country ones, I will go to that. Fine, people are performing, do things. Just stand there and talk about short films. You know what a short film is to me? One that I turn off. That's a short film. Well, this sucks. I'm done. That's a short. Other than that, I don't even know where you see a short film. I don't know. I guess I could Google it, but. So Tovar's up in the hotel room in Universal City. It broke my heart when I saw him. Tovar was always so handsome, such a natty, N-A-T-T-Y, dresser. The staff members must have known how important it was for him to look elegant when he stepped into what would probably be the last limousine ride of his life. Oh, gosh. He had on a silk suit and an ascot, but his face was drawn and his eyes were sunken. We gossiped about and talked about the old times. He loved watching the kids in the suite, Presley running around and Graceland toddling. I hugged his neck before I left for the show, and he wished me luck. I told him my friendship was all the luck I'd ever need. Before I walked out the door, he squeezed my hand and told me he thought this trip would be the last time we'd ever see each other. Okay, well, sad note to go to the award show. As I said before, winning awards isn't what motivates me. But I did harbor the hope of winning something that night so I could be on camera to send Tovar a message on national television. I knew how much that would mean to him. Kathy Mattea and actor James Brolin came out to present the video award. I believe James Brolin, isn't he the one who married Barbara Streisand? Am I right? Am I wrong? How old are they now? My parents' age? 79, 78, 80? I took a deep breath and I walked up to the lectern. I told the audience how proud I was that, she won. They announced that I'd won, James and Kathy Mattea. I almost cried. I took a deep breath, walked up to the lectern, and told the audience how proud I was to have been part of the country music for the past 20 years. I thanked Jerry Crutchfield and my record label. I thanked my father, I bet, and my children. Then I said, I'd like to accept this award from my friend Tovar, who is watching this show from my hotel room. This trip may be the last time I'll see him. There was more I wanted to say, but my throat closed up and I couldn't. When I got back to the suite, Tovar was still up and waiting to say goodnight. He was very weak, but he was thrilled to have been part of his success, of one success we could share. Taking him back to the hospice was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. I returned to Nashville and Evelina studio the next night to try to finish recording soon. When I got there, I hope the Stalker guy's not in the recording booth yakking away. When I got there, the record label security men were everywhere. George Curry, who owned the private security company called Capital Records Used, I get it, came over and showed me some of the items left behind the previous Sunday by the man I thought of as a silver assassin. He'd somehow misplaced a baseball cap and his California driver's license, so we knew his name, but he was no longer at the address. In addition to the items he'd left by accident, he was given a studio employee map of Arkansas. He'd given a studio employee a map of Arkansas with a message printed on it. The message said, if he couldn't have me, nobody else ever would. Oh, no. Oh, my God. This is the kind of thing you'd see on television or read in paperback novels, and it sounds corny and comic unless it is directed at you. Well, I bet. First thing I did was call my house, make sure Presley and Grayson and the nanny are all right. I didn't know enough about stalkers to know if they went after family members or if they were just interested in the person they targeted. The children were fine. I told the nanny to lock themselves in tight and make sure the security system was activated. But like my sister says, by the time a security system is activated, if that person wants to be, they're already in the house. And then I asked the guy at Lowe's, which one of these do you think is the safest, Ring or the Nest or all that? And he goes, truthful? You want me to be truthful? I said, yes, please. He was old. I figured he'd know because he works in that aisle, that department. He goes, shotgun? Okay, sir. Well, it's not really what I meant, but thanks for the advice. Then I asked George to call my father and get some guards out to my house to make sure the kids stayed fine. I moved my Mercedes to a secluded spot behind the studio where someone driving by wouldn't see it. Several guards stayed with me and several headed for my house. When I talked to Dad on the telephone, he asked me what I thought was a strange question. You haven't tried to hide that car, have you? I said, of course I had. Well, get it back out there because this guy's going to come looking for you and the security men can get him. I moved my car to the front parking lot. Well, first of all, you shouldn't move it. This is where we break down in the hillbilly thing. You tell someone else, go move my car to the front. You're not equipped enough to be bait. The FBI is not involved in this. It's just some security people that you're paying whatever. Sure enough, later that night, he drove into the studio's parking lot and started to get out of his car. He ditched the Tanya van and was driving a bronze Maverick. My mom had a Maverick, a green one. It was an 8-cylinder engine and a car about the size of my coffee table. I don't really know that we ever stopped at a stoplight. We rumbled at stoplights, and then it just, it was a great little car. I'd like to have that back. Security man approached, and although he took off at a high speed, the guard got the license plate number, so at least we knew what he was driving. Following afternoon, a police car cruiser spotted the car parked on Music Row, and they were able to arrest him before he took off again. He was carrying a huge hunting knife and talked incoherently about me all the way to jail. I was mainly relieved because of the children, but again, I went home without finishing up my vocals. I just couldn't do it. Yeah, that is fucked up. Several days later, when I woke, I couldn't get out of bed. I was shaking, I was afraid, and I didn't know of what. I didn't even realize I was crying until my hair felt wet, and I realized my tears had soaked the pillow. That's a good country album right there. tears soaked my pillow. All I knew for sure was that I seemed to be falling apart. Thank God Presley and Grayson were at Mother and Dad's house because I couldn't function. The new assistant I'd hired to help, Tootie, Becky Wemack, arrived that morning. I couldn't even talk to her. Well, that puts your assistant in a bad spot because they're coming over there for instructions and you don't even know you're crying. Shoo, buddy. That's going to make for a weird first day. It was the beginning of the most terrifying time I'd ever spent. When Tovar died several weeks later, I couldn't get up to fly out to his funeral. I wanted to be there, very much to be there, but I couldn't get myself out of bed. Wanda Van Klaas described it to me and told me that per his request, my recording of the Two Sparrows at a Hurricane was played at the service. She also told me that when word reached Elizabeth Taylor in Europe, that Tovar's fondest wish was to be able to meet her. Although she couldn't come in person, she sent a very kind note, which he received before he died. Well, that's nice. Also, Wanda told me that Tovar had named her the executor of his estate, and there's something he's always wanted me to have, the ring with his name in diamonds. I was a basket case for the next couple of months. My parents stepped in and kept my children many times. I'd pull it together long enough to see them every day or so, but I was feeling worthless as a parent right then. Mother and Dad would come by to see what they could do. Sometimes I could barely talk to him. Ben called to see if he could help. Sometimes I could talk to him, sometimes not. Friends like Shirley Porter and all these people either called or came and tried to help. No amount of sympathy, concern, or advice worked. My family and friends wanted me to talk to a professional about my state of mind, but I balked. I couldn't get past thinking seeking help was a sign of weakness. People who were tough did not go to shrinks. Well, back then, probably not a lot of people. I also didn't quite understand that depression is nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about. Right. Because back then they'd say, just get off your ass. You know, you can get, what's the Texas one? You can get happy in the same shoes you got sad in. That's what people would say back then. But they usually can't do it alone. One of my problems, I've spent too many years thinking I could do everything on my own. So on my own, I stayed tougher tuck, and it got worse. Exactly. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't perform. But there was one show at the end of May I felt I had to play, and that was the Jimmy Rogers Festival in Meridian, Mississippi. When I called my dad and suggested I canceled, I knew when my dad called and suggested I cancel, I knew I must be in bad shape. At our house, you got to be sick 2 days maximum, and you got to be sick 2 days maximum, and that makes it pretty hard to fake an illness to get out of doing something. I think my dad would agree with that. 2 days, nah, after that, you're just wallowing. Come on, tiny soldier, get your ass up. Remember once back in grade school when I had a boil on my rear end. Okay, we didn't need to bring this up, did we? You have a boil on your ass? And after I'd stayed home for the second day, Dad told me that was all I could miss. The next day, boil or no boil, I trotted to school carrying a pillow to sit on. I can't even comment on that. But I knew I had to go to Meridian that year no matter what. Ever since I'd performed Daddy and Home on that Jimmy Rogers tribute album, I'd felt a responsibility to the festival and tried to attend each year. If they lacked performers, the show organizers always knew that they could come to me and I'd make some calls. I couldn't let them down. Also, I'd committed to shooting a television special at the festival. I'd met an independent television producer named Sheila Slaughter. I wonder if that's George Slaughter's wife or daughter. He was the guy who produced the Comedy Awards for a while that were on ABC and then Comedy Central, and then he did other shows. I don't know. He was a big deal. Who's months earlier asked if I could help her set up the Nashville network, TNN, on a series of shows about various country stars. She thought if her pilot featured someone who had a fairly high profile, the concept might fly. I said I'd do the interview. She decided to shoot it while I was playing the Jimmy Rogers Festival. I'd given her my word, so on the 29th of May, I was in Meridian. I did my part of the show, and Sheila and I made the television special. I was in such a down state of mind that I didn't remember to put my showbiz face forward. My showbiz face forward. I spilled my guts about some of the things that were weighing heavily on me. I talked about the huge responsibility I felt because my family depended on me. Well, right. Maybe we can address that. Maybe somebody else could get a fucking job. Anybody sitting around in this house capable of anything? Phew. Talked about being so tired that I wanted to quit the road for a while and spend more time with my children. Sheila interviewed My brother Don, who was out on the road sometimes with me, out on the road with me again, sometimes driving the bus, sometimes just acting as a bus manager, seeing to upkeep and repairs. He agreed that there comes a time in a person's career when family members can't take care of everything. Mother and Dad were along, but they didn't sit in on many of the actual interviews, and they didn't know exactly what the tone was going to be. My God, when Dad saw it, he flipped out. What did you get paid for? Wait, what did you get paid for that? He demanded. And it better be a lot, because that show isn't going to do your public image any good. Okay, see, there's no, come on now. That's not helping. He went even crazier when I admitted I hadn't been paid a dime. Daddy ain't going to like that. And I told him I didn't care what it did to my public image. Not long after Meridian, I had a call from Travis Tritt. He didn't have any idea I was in such a bad state. He was calling to say he was going back to his girlfriend, a woman he'd broken up with several months earlier, and he wanted to know if I thought it was dumb to start up the relationship again. Well, if somebody... After Travis speaks to her, one would think that Travis would think, maybe this lady doesn't have the advice I'm looking for right now. She's crying and doesn't know it. She just told some television producer on camera about all of her secrets and sadness. Maybe I should ask a different friend. Hey man, I'm thinking about getting back with my girlfriend. Should I do it? Is it dumb? I didn't know the particulars of their breakup in the first place. And it's always funny to me, people ask my opinion on relationships considering my own track record. So I just said, Travis, I don't care if you want to date red-headed chihuahuas if it makes you happy. Red-headed chihuahuas. We talked for a while. I told him how down I'd been and how hard it was for me to get up, go out, and perform. I said, even though I'd think about quitting, he had a fit and insisted I just needed a break. A couple weeks later, I received a letter from Marty Stewart, a good friend of mine who often tours with Travis. Don't do it, T. Give yourself a rest, but don't quit. You're one of the good ones. An individual. Marty's one of the most spiritual, uplifting people I know, and his words helped me through the rest of that dark time. I went back to the studio and finished my vocals for soon, though I don't know how. When you hear the sadness in the songs like the title cut, we don't have to do this. Just know it was a gut level, real as anything I'd ever done. One song, Hanging In, Hanging Out, and Hanging On, I dedicated to the T-Birds because they hung in there with me for all those years. Then I went on the road again. I don't know if any of this was really addressed, or I'm just going to move on. Get back on the bus. As much as I'd wanted a break, there didn't seem to be any way to do it without canceling concerts. During June of '93, I only had 4 days off. I always wished I could make my own records on my own schedule instead of this block out 2 weeks in May kind of concept. I'd love to record over a period of time, to go in the studio when I felt like I was really ready, instead of when the producers and the record label and the session musicians can book the time. In some ways, it's the difference between when songwriters compose and when the muse strikes them. When they clock in at the office and write songs from 9 to 5 every day, I'd be willing to bet that most of the classic songs were penned according to the muse and not the time clock. I agree. My mental state didn't improve. I finally called Dr. Boehm, my OBGYN, and told him I couldn't sleep or eat or stop crying. I know that if I get upset, my first thought, why do I need to call my gyno? No. At least just start with your real doctor. Why would you call a gynecologist? I admitted that I felt like I might be going crazy and I needed help. First time in my life I'd ever asked for anything to help emotionally. The counselors at Betty Ford would have applauded the move. Dr. Bowen explained that my mental state wasn't something for an OBGYN. Well, good for that guy or lady. He? Is it a he? Probably. He gave me the telephone number of a good psychiatrist. It took all I had to make the call, but I did. Good for her. And I went to see the man. It was a major breakthrough for me. He explained that I wasn't going crazy. Depression's not an uncommon state of mind. He also suggested between the recording sessions, the Stalker, and my road schedule, I wasn't giving myself time to grieve for Tovar. Exactly. He explained that depression can often be caused by a chemical imbalance and prescribed medication. One of the most important things I've come to understand, there's nothing wrong with seeking professional help when you're having problems. That is a good message. Actually, it's just plain stupid not to. The head of my record label, Scott Hendricks, says it's a shame when people hear negative term, hear the somewhat negative term shrink so often because they think they become turned off by the whole idea of counseling. He would be right. Because as any writer would tell you, words can sway people whether they realize it or not. I started to crawl out of the depression in late June, partly, I'm sure, because of the medication. Coming back from a depression doesn't happen overnight. One of the first things that changed was I started sleeping better. Rest goes a long way to help recovery. Then my appetite started to return. Then I wanted to have my children with me because I felt like I was capable of giving them the attention they needed. I think another reason I started functioning better was because I booked one of them at one of those theaters at Opryland. Those are choice gigs for national entertainers because they give us an opportunity to be with our families, to see our friends we never get to see out on the road and get some rest. The gig was a godsend for me, and the fog that had been clouding my mind seemed to clear somewhat. Presley's birthday was coming up on July 5th, and that forced me to go out looking for birthday presents. That meant I was among the people instead of on a bus or a stage or in my bed. I ended up buying not only for Presley, but for my mother and Ben. Dad says the amount I spend is often tied to how low I feel. If I'm down, I think I can buy my way up. And maybe he's right. On the 4th of July, Wanda Van Class came to visit. She didn't say anything about Tovar's bequest when she arrived, and I didn't ask. I figured she wanted to give me the ring when the time was right. I didn't have to leave for Opryland till 4:30 in the afternoon, so when Wanda and I decided to take a ride around the ranch on my pink Harley, it's Independence Day, Wanda said. What better time to celebrate Tovar's freedom from pain? We were dressed in little black tank tops and shorts, and I drove us at breakneck speed through the Tennessee hills, our hair flying in the wind. Finally stopped at the crest of a hill, got off the motorcycle, and just stood there looking at the valley below. This could have been scripted by Tovar, Wanda said. I agreed. Tovar would love the idea of two blondes on a pink Harley carrying out a mission he'd set up. Wanda reached into her pocket. Tovar wanted you to have this. I think that meant more than him than anything. Tears started streaming down my face. Tovar saw inside your heart. You've had ups and downs in your life the way he did. I'd say his were a little more down. But also, like him, you're a good person, loving person. You meant a great deal. I couldn't respond, but I was thinking how lucky I was that in this Tovar scripted scenario, one of the two blondes on the pink Harley had a PhD in psychology. You termites are good termites. You're worthy termites. You're loving termites. Some of you are extra chubby termites, but that's okay. It's been weird times. Get those cheddar cheese bites. They're at Target. They're so good. Oh my God. All right, termites. We're almost done. Look at that. We're on page, like 316. There's only 340. A few more nights. In the meantime, are you guys going to my pubcast? We're not doing readings there. I'm just talking about crazy shit. Stuff that interests me. Stuff that I should have called the pubcast Rabbit Hole. Because I start on something and then I start the giggle machine. Shoo, buddy. Yeah. So that's been fun. What else? I think that's all for now, termites. My birthday's coming up. Did I mention that? 20 times? September 30th. Where are my fellow little Libras at? Where are my other indecisive people? Here's the thing about Libras. I can make big decisions, lickety split. Want to move to Alaska? Sure. Then I pack up and I go. It's the little things. Right now, Brooks tennis shoes, I like the Ghost 11. They have like 70 colors. Oh, fuck. I can't do it. Still wearing my old ones because I can't decide. It's stupid stuff like that. This thing, they had it in blue and this. I couldn't decide. It's Target, whatever. They're like $20. Bought them both only because I couldn't decide. Stupid things like that. All right, termites, get your sheet. Put your head on that pillow. Get your night-night t-shirt out. Your story time. Is it getting softer? Have you washed it once? I bet after like 3 or 4 washes, it's going to be dynamite. And the reason I know that was going to be that soft is because when Lewis and I did the Canadian tour, we had t-shirts made, and that's how soft they were. And I said, I want those again, even though they're pricier. That's why we're all paying a little bit more. You get what you pay for. You want your shirt to be $10? Guess what it's going to be? Crunchy Bar t-shirt. cut fucked up. One arm kind of be here. These are great. All right, put your head on the pillow. Get yourself a little nightcap, whatever it is. Close your eyes. Ready? Night-night, termites.